And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. I'm your trusted host, Alexi Boyd from Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H. And with me in the room today, I have been so excited about having her on the program, is Katrina Friel from Refresh Your Thinking. Now, I'm going to let Katrina introduce herself because I find her background and her journey towards running a business very, very fascinating. And of course, the reason why I'm so excited about having her on the program is that she has a huge amount of experience with both small business, entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, which she's going to tell you about a little bit about in a moment. And of course, working with corporates as well and the executive level. And that's why I've invited her to be on the show today. We're going to be talking about time management strategies. And I think that experience across all sectors is going to be absolutely invaluable to our listeners. So welcome to the show, Katrina. Thank you for finally coming on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I should also mention as well that Katrina is a bit of a business mentor to me. Yes, pecuniary interest declared. and you're a local as well. You harp from up at the Central Coast.
I do, but I was born and bred on the North Shore. So
there you go. So you're back in Midway.
Midway, yeah. I love this area, and I love seeing you. And it's great to finally be on the show.
Excellent. Now today we're going to be talking about time management, but just take me through your journey a little bit with regards to how you came to this point where you're giving the executive level coaching and the business mentoring. What led you to this path? Throughout my career, I was always finding that whatever job I had, people at the job would come and seek my counsel. And I didn't know, I thought everyone did that. I thought that happened to everyone. So, I used to coach and mentor people and inspire people and motivate people pretty much every day over coffee with my colleagues. And eventually I realised that it was, I suppose everyone has their gifts and their talents. And I found mine, and I think I was able to connect the dots between doing it just naturally and that you could have a career out of it. So I left corporate about 17 odd years ago. I had my last JOB. JOB, I love the way you call them the JOBs. Yes, it's like there's something evil in our past. So that's an interesting transition because, just before we came on the air, we were talking about the transition between corporate to consultant. So you've lived that really. Yeah. Do you find... Was it a bit of a sort of step into the wilderness when you did it yourself?
Yeah, I have a very conservative husband, and I say that because he will ground me with all my ideas. And that's not a bad thing. I'm saying that in a very positive way. It's always good to have a yin-yang relationship, I always think. We've been around together for 30 years now, and he's been fantastic in just supporting me and nurturing me and looking after me as I've gone through this 17 years out in the wilderness. But what happened was I had a miscarriage.
Oh, right.
And what happens when sort of trauma happens like that is that it changes your perspective on life. So I was very engaged at work. I was very into my JOB. I loved it. I was good at it. I was in a fantastic large organisation that respected my abilities and my entrepreneurialism. And after the miscarriage, I just lost the plot. Completely lost the plot, and I didn't have the same zest for life. And so it meant a change was coming, I think. And that's when I just went, stuff it, I want out. And I found these people that ripped me off $30,000. But
ouch.
That's another story. But that actually got me out because I purchased what I thought was a program with a group of people. Didn't end up being anything. They had nothing. I just paid for air. And that's been a good experience for a number of reasons because, number one, it got me out and it got me on my road to my destiny. but at the same time it also means that deep down inside of me, I love adding a lot of value to clients.
I was going to say, you would have taken that experience and said, I'm not going to let that happen to anyone else again.
Exactly. So my programs aren't 30,000. My program, one of my large signature programs, is about 10, but I give $30,000 or more worth of value, and it's because of that experience of how much that hurt me in my early days, realising. But I learned a lot from that experience.
So that refresh your thinking, that is a part and parcel, that is the package that now tell me about intrapreneurs.
So intrapreneur is what I was inside my JOBs throughout my entire 20, 30-year career. What I was really entrepreneurial inside a JOB. And once I saw the word, you can actually Google it. It is a real word, but I kind of claimed it and grabbed it, and I now call myself the, Australia's leading expert in intrapreneurs, and that's where I go into organisations. I train them, I coach them on leadership, communication, management, whatever it is that they're focusing on, and I look for the sparkly eyes in the class, and they are usually the entrepreneurs, which are really intrapreneurs inside an organisation.
But that's okay, isn't it? It's okay to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to just go, well, you're entrepreneurial, you should quit your job and go out into the wilderness.
Absolutely not. It's not for everyone. And I've started, over the last decade or so, I've started to really respect that. And I realise that some people are made to be out in the wilderness, and other people just really love the protection of being in the wildlife park.
In their fence.
Yes. Yeah, so, and they can do good work there and they can develop. I think the key is, are you engaged? Are you happy? Are you learning? And if you're learning, you're probably very engaged and excited. It's what I help where I help the most is people that are disengaged, lost their passion, no interest anymore, not growing, and I really start to encourage them to step out into the wilderness and experience what their other destiny could be.
So that's really what an executive coach within a corporate organisation should do. So for those of you who are listening out there who are in a JOB and are finding that they don't have that entrepreneurial spirit being fostered and being nurtured, perhaps some good executive training is in order, and that should be suggested. For all of you out there in HR, this is something that you should just do as part of a corporate anyways, really.
Yeah, well, training and coaching is literally the number one engagement strategy. There's nothing better than that.
One-on-ones.
One-on-one coaching, it's still got its status. It still does. And if you get coached, especially the young people, Gen Y, millennials, they insist on being trained and coached, and they absolutely love it and they're very open to it. So
interesting.
And they are so bright. When I go in and I see their level of self-awareness, it's incredible.
But is that just because they're newbies and they haven't been
ruined?
Yeah. And they're not rough around the edges yet? Do you think that's why?
They're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, but they're thirsty for knowledge because they want to learn and grow. And I just love this new generation. I just think what we're breeding, I'm talking high-performing, self-managing types, not the average person. I'm talking about the intrapreneurs with high potential. When I see them, I'm just amazed at how self-aware they are. It's just because they've got access to stuff that we never had access to when we were
That's true,
younger.
Isn't it? The whole
and we've
world
gone
is
and
at
read
their
it.
doorstep.
Yeah, we've gone and read it over the last 20 years. Well, they just went and got it at 17, 18, 19.
Yeah. It's interesting you should talk about that age group in that way, because so many people who hire small businesses who hire staff are very despondent when they think about the Gen Ys and the millennials.
It's because they're not training them and they're not coaching them, which means they're not going to stay. They're just not, because unless they're learning from a mentor and their manager and they respect their manager and look up to them and are learning from them, they're out of there. They're out of there. And you know why I can relate to them? Is because I'm like that. Even though I'm a Gen X, it makes no difference. I look at millennials and Gen Y and go, I'm exactly the same. I get you.
It's the hunger and the thirst for knowledge and growth.
Exactly, and to learn and grow. And the minute the job is mastered, they want to learn and grow more to the next level.
To take advantage, I suppose, rather than whinging.
Yeah,
which is what
rather
you get a lot
than
of.
expecting them just to sit there and not learn and grow, I mean, that's just not in their makeup. They don't get that. So they will resign and they will leave quickly. They won't hang around for the 2 years on their resume. They'll say life's too short and go, I'm out of here in 3 months. I'm out of here in 6 months. I'm out of here in 12 months. Whatever, but the key to keeping them and getting your return on investment is to keep them for longer than, I suppose 2 years would be nice. And if to get them to that point, you really need to help them learn and grow, and that's training and coaching if you've got it.
That's a good lead into our subject today, which is all about time management.
Yeah, one of my favourite topics.
And I suppose as you were talking there, it was the first time I thought about putting the two words together. Time. We all, whinge about time and how little we have and how it seems to be accelerating and there's not enough time in the day. But the management, and I think you've just touched on something that is quite a bit of a pinch point for businesses, which is the management side of things. And when you think about time management with regards to your employees, making the most of the time that they're there. And I suppose a lot of us would think that if we've got someone there that, I've got to train them. I've got to stop. I've got to down tools. I've got to stop what I'm doing to train them and et cetera, et cetera. But it really is about managing your time to make sure that you're managing their time for learning and training and growth.
I have a theory. It's a very, very important theory, and that is shit in, shit out. So if you don't invest and train them and induct them properly and set them up for success, not set them up for failure, and not do what has happened to us our entire careers, and that is the sink or swim mentality, really set them up. So if you put good stuff in, you'll get them up to delegation phase a lot quicker, which means you get maximum productivity out of that person. Whereas if you put shit in, you'll always get shit out and you'll always be constantly dealing with errors, oversights, miscommunications.
Retraining.
Well, you didn't even train them first in the first place. So
True.
You get what I'm saying? So shit in, shit out. You deserve what you get. You'll probably find you just did not induct them properly and set that task that you want done beautifully up for success.
So let's talk about time management on a day-to-day level, because one of the things that you, with your executive training and coaching, that's a fundamental aspect that people have got to grasp, whether they're in a JOB or in a small business.
Absolutely.
So talk me through some of your fundamental tips.
My number one tip, if this is all you get out of today's session, is that time management, we all have the same 24 hours. So managing time is actually a misnomer. What I like to call it is self-leadership and self-management. So the question I ask you is, how well are you self-managing? How well are you self-leading? And quite often I find people are flat out busy. Oh, God, I'm so flat out. I'm so busy. I'm so important. I've got no time, and they're just so busy being busy. And there's this status with how busy you are and that you've got no time.
The B word.
Oh, my God, I'm just so over it, because really all that says to me is you're out of control. I couldn't give you anything and I couldn't trust you to do it because you're not managing yourself very well and you're not leading your life correctly. And the reason I know this concept so well is because I had 2 burnouts before I was even 25 because I'm constantly busy. I was constantly doing stuff, constantly thinking of things, taking more on. And obviously by the second burnout, I realised, hang on a minute, something has to change. Otherwise I'll be dead by 40 with a heart attack or stress or whatever whatever it is. But so that's why at a very young age I realised that you have to sort out this self-leadership, self-management thing because you can't manage time. Everyone's got 24 hours in a day, just like Oprah. But look at what some people do with their 24 hours and look at other people, they can barely get to their work on time.
Right. Okay.
So it's a skill and it's a philosophy that you've got to get your head around about managing yourself.
We're just going to take a short break now and listen to some community service announcement, but we'll be back afterwards talking more with Katrina Friel about time management. You're listening to Small Biz Matters on Triple H 100.1 FM. So, Katrina, time management. It's a doozy.
It's a doozy. Everyone's desperate to get it right. Everyone wants to maximise their day. So time management, I suppose, you think about productivity. How productive were you today? And what we find, if we take the 80-20 rule, what you'll find is 20% of what you're doing in a week is giving you your result, 80% of your result. 80% of what you do is giving you 20% of your result.
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, exactly. So, you've really, one of the things we do with executives is we get them to sort of have a look at their week, where are you spending your time? And what is the 20% of activities that give all that value back? We look to do more of that rather than all this other stuff that doesn't give us any value.
Is it an individual thing, what people believe to be that 20%? Are they really capable of analysing their diary and saying, look, these are the things that I need to do more of? Or is that something that a coach does, that they step in and say, look, this is more productive than the other stuff? Because I could argue that spending time on Facebook and interacting with my potential clients and answering questions about bookkeeping and admin is actually quite productive, but not now or later down the track. It's, I guess, apart from the distractions. So
a lot of small businesses are outsourcing that now because they're so busy making sales and increasing revenue, which is the number one priority of business. They outsource all that because they just don't feel that's really going to deliver the result that they're looking for. So I think if you are at the stage where you could outsource it, I would definitely be looking at that. Or another way, if you don't want to have an outsourced person do it, you could actually schedule your social media and use a product like Hootsuite or something. And again, that saves time because anytime you block tasks together, you get a much more productive. Rather than doing it 100 times and posting 100 times, you're just scheduling everything in half a day, and those 4 hours is going to set you up for the next 3 months or something.
So let's look at, so typically if you're a consultant or when you're really any business, you would have a few meetings just to get to know people in other businesses in the community, build relationships. Would you consider that to be
my top priority in the week? Meetings for me, apart from actual delivery. So if I have a training day, that's my whole day gone. So
number one is client work.
Delivering.
Yeah.
Exactly. And delivering to high spec. That's your number one priority. The second priority is then to, with consultants, they have the feast or famine problem. And that's because they're working, delivering, and then they've forgotten all about meetings and getting new business. So you've got to blend that when you're a consultant or working for yourself. You've got to blend that with delivery and having meetings. So what I'll often do is if I go into the city, I live on the Central Coast, I've got to make that day really productive. I'm not just going to go down for one meeting and then stuff around for the rest of the day. I'll probably book 4 to 5 appointments. And if I do that, I know that day's very, very productive because out of that there might be 4 clients at $10,000 each, and then you've got one maybe which is just putting the sale in the sales funnel.
It's something that I found actually recently with booking all these meetings off the back of a successful networking meeting, which we all had for the Chamber of Commerce a couple of weeks ago, is that if I put a meeting in the diary, and I'm trying to schedule it around other people as well, so it'll be right in the middle of the day and it'll be terribly inconvenient.
Annoying.
And then what I'll say, well, I've lost that day now, really. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just try and put back-to-backs in amongst those meetings. So that day becomes a meeting day.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Realistically, I've lost that day anyway. I'm not going to get 1 hour and a half work done and then travel for half an hour. So why don't I just go into Hornsby Central or Warringah or wherever it is that I'm going, bounce between the cafes and just make the most of that time.
Because remember, you're grouping things. So a lot of small businesses, I find, they'll do admin in the morning, have their meeting in the middle of the day, and then go home to do more admin. Really unproductive, because where's your mind in the morning? On the meeting at the middle of the day. So you're much better off just going meeting mind.
Yes.
So having a meeting, busy, going from cafe to cafe, and chunk those together.
Right.
So that's a really productive day for me, doing what you just described.
And also getting your head around the other days where you don't have meetings. Well, what you should consider meetings with yourself to just block book yourself for client work.
Yeah.
I'm actually starting to block out big chunks of a day and just say, right, well, there's nothing that fallen in that day, so I'm not going to kill it with the meeting. I'm going to block it out and say, right, that's the day that I work on this client and this client's work and get it out the door.
Yeah, and I don't want to be going back to the I don't want to touch things twice, and I don't want to be getting back in the zone all the time. So I usually start something and finish it. And I know for some of you get distracted. I understand that, but just know that you're wasting in a year, by starting and stopping activities, you're wasting in a year about probably 40% of your time.
Right. And that's a huge amount of time.
That is huge over the year.
We talk about time management. We talk about time loss.
It's time loss, yeah. And I find unproductive people usually have, they stop and start activities. They get distracted really easily. They want to be distracted really easily, so they love things like Facebook. Whereas I've become the productivity queen. Like, I really know how to make the most of your day and how to squeeze whatever you need out of your year. It's just most people don't carve it up correctly.
Yeah. And I like what you said at the beginning with your meeting mind. That's what the hat on that you've got that day. Also, if you're a female, it's handy because you only have to put on makeup that day.
Exactly. When I do an admin day, I love it. I've got, don't even, just put your keep your jammies on, and not that I wear jammies, but I'm not naked either. Anyway, I pop something on, and it's just, to me, my admin days are very relaxing days, but they're very productive because you get through a lot uninterrupted.
Exactly. It's funny you say uninterrupted. I'm just turning off that stupid sound that's coming out of my laptop as we're talking.
Yeah, so for mums, I find that they've got, say, from 10 to, realistically, you've only got 10 till 3.
Oh, yeah.
Or less.
Yeah.
So mums have to be very precious of their time and not wasting it. And then intrapreneurs have to be very careful because you've got what I call time wasters, and one of them is drop-ins and phone calls and stuff. So when I was an intrapreneur, I would turn my phone off. You have voicemail now is totally appropriate. And I would set aside time, like 5-10 minutes set aside to respond to calls.
Within every couple of hours or so.
Yeah, every couple of hours. But why do we let the phone rule our day and let the app's push-throughs rule our day? This is what's happening to people, is they're being ruled by their phone. And one of the best things you can do if you want to save 20% of your life in a year is turn your phone on Do Not Disturb, and you look at it when you're ready to look at it, not because it beeped.
Interesting concept. Do not disturb. I like that. I hope everyone can find that. That's within your settings, by the way.
Yeah, mine's on Do Not Disturb at all times. At all times.
Wow. And so you are the one dictating when you will take the calls.
I am self-managing.
Right.
Not the phone managing me. It's ridiculous. So, everyone's hooked on their phones. It's totally addictive. And that's where a lot of wasted time is, because we're just constantly checking. And what are we checking? Spam. Yeah. Most of the time.
Exactly. And that's a real break in your thought process as well. I find with my clients, because it can be quite bitty, and this isn't because of distractions, but because clients need to get back to me with information. And like you said, diving back into that headspace for that client, what was I doing last? So I actually have working notes as I'm working through. I'll do a chunk of work for a client. I'll write down what I did, what the information was that I was waiting on from them, because sending an email out and saying, okay, I'll just wait for them to get back to me, doesn't always work, because your client, you're not their client, it's the other way around. So you need to have some sets of notes somewhere so you know what's coming up next. And that's what I encourage a lot of people to use Trello as well, so you can see where was I up to, what am I waiting on from the client. So when you dive back down into that rabbit hole for that particular client, you can say, well, that's what I was waiting on.
You can get back in the zone very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a little top tip that I'm sure a lot of bookkeepers use, but certainly something that can be used across other industries as well.
Anything to get up to speed very quickly. With coaching clients, obviously, we have to understand what we spoke about before, and I have, I'm still very old-fashioned, and I have manila folders, and all my little notes are in there. So I'm not wasting time retyping anything. I'm just slapping my notes, ripping them out of my book and slapping them into the folder. And then when I'm heading to the meeting or getting ready for the meeting, I can look and go, oh, yeah, totally in the zone.
Yep, I know where I'm up to with that person.
I'm up to.
That's awesome.
And nobody needs to look at my files. They're just for me.
So talk to me about lists. What's your, I mean, I know when talking to lots of different experts in their fields and business coaches and that sort of thing, that they all have very different views on lists. One
of the worst things you can have is what I call a linear list. Very particular anal people have long to-do lists. Now, what that does is make you quite unproductive. What happens is the brain looks at that list and feels overwhelmed instantly. So all day it's looking at that long list and it's feeling overwhelmed every time it looks at it. So it's draining your energy out of you. So one of the philosophies I liked once I discovered it was, of course, the time matrix, 7 habits of highly effective people. I think there's 8 habits now. But the one thing that he developed in that book, and it stood the test of time for the last 30 years, is the time matrix, and that's what you work your diary off. So you put in number 1 tasks are urgent and important. Number 2 tasks are urgent but not important. Number 3 tasks are not urgent but important. And number 4 tasks are not urgent, not important. And I would suggest that those number 4 tasks you start to throw in the circular file, the garbage bin.
Circular file.
Yeah, like stop doing them. Like, why are they on their list? And if something's on my list forever and a day, I get real with myself and I go, Katrina, are you really ever going to do that? No? Well, then stop writing it
It's
down.
like that email at the bottom of the inbox that you just keep on looking at and you go, oh, I've done really well. Yeah. I've got the inbox down to a page. And then, that's emails there from 6 months ago.
So either that will motivate you to get it done, and it usually does me because I hate what I call open loops. So I use the way my brain works is it hates open loops, so I use that to motivate myself. So I see that sitting there for a couple of weeks and I go, Katrina, oh my God, it's driving you crazy. Get rid of it. So I'll quickly do it. That's how I did my tax the other day because I saw the accountant's email and I kept looking at it and I go, okay, just get rid of it.
You have to say to yourself, how much time am I actually spending looking and reading this thing?
Yeah.
And if I chunk that all together and realise, well, there's 2 hours gone.
Absolutely. And I wasted 2 hours just looking at that email lots of times. So eventually I got motivated and just did it. And now that all that stuff about what I had to do is all now filed neatly away and out of my unconscious mind. So while we're on inbox for a second, very busy, out of control people that aren't very good self-managers have thousands of emails in their inbox. Now, what that's doing to the brain is it's making it feel overwhelmed. And for every email in your inbox, there's one tiny little bit of energy held for that email inside your brain. So people that are absolutely exhausted on Friday, it's because their little brains are holding the energy on each of those thousands of things. So the first thing we do with clients is we go and look at this problem and we see, have they got 100 emails, 500 emails, thousands of emails, and we file all that away. All you should have in your inbox is really what's outstanding from your point of view.
What you're actually going to action. There shouldn't be any junk mail. There shouldn't be any newsletters in there.
Nothing. So that when my brain looks at my inbox, it's only holding 5 to 10 energy balls in my body over that situation.
Can you take me through what, you know how you've got, I'm a big fan of folders.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the typical folders that you would like to see people have as a small business.
Well,
where you can file things away.
I think you need to work out a way that suits you and your business or your job. Mine is set up with clients, so everything to do with that client goes into that one place. And these days you almost don't even need folders because of search. But I'm old school too. I like to know they're all in there. And there's something to be said for taking that email and filing it away. The brain likes that closed loop. And my brain certainly needs loops to be closed. It cannot it doesn't like open
And the search
loops.
function doesn't always work. If you can't remember what the phrase is or the series of words that you used in that email and you really desperately need it, it's certainly a lot easier to look in one client file than to try and trawl through
and get
everything.
the gist and get the gist, because it often will inspire your thinking as to what you should be searching for anyway. But look, that's my view. Is I just have clients, and I have a thing for, I might have a folder for networking.
Yes.
So everything to do with all my networking
Contacts,
stuff
coffee
are
meetings,
all in there.
yeah. And I've got one for the ATO and anything financial and accountants.
Yeah.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
And I guess marketing, but you would put that in the networking file. Yeah, I mean, you really only need sort of half a dozen files, really, don't you, that you just drag and drop things into?
And every year, go through your folders and put ZZZ and have them throw to the bottom of the list, because you still want to keep them as a record. But any of my old clients or old projects and things that are finished that I don't deal with anymore are all ZZZ down the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
So they're out of my eyesight. I know they're there, but they're not in my constant scroll and distracting me as I scroll down my current folders.
Another thing you can do, I know a few email programs will allow you to do this, such as Google. If you've got newsletters from a particular organisation, they don't even hit your inbox. They just go into a reading file.
Rules. Oh, my gosh.
Are you a fan of rules?
I'm a huge fan of rules, because I don't want any distractions. So any distractions I get from spam, I say that to my computer, that's spam, and so I never see that again. Then I set up a rule saying, oh, yes, like Westpac stuff. Okay, good. Just computer, just take that straight to Westpac. So when I am ready to catch up with Westpac stuff, you can go to the folder and see all.
Is that a client or your banking?
That would be my banking, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're a client. But either way, so Westpac would be a client folder, but then I'd have a folder called banking. And the rule would be all that crap goes in there.
And you can, and then what happens with, I mean, you still do have to check your junk mail, really, don't you?
You still do, yeah, but only if you really can't find something.
Yeah, or something's popped into there, such as, you know, a client sending you from their procurement section how you have to fill out their form, and it always hits the junk mail. Yeah, very, very efficient by corporate. Well done. Okay, we're just going to take a quick break and listen to a couple of other community service announcements. You are listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. This is Small Biz Matters. We'll be back after this. And you are listening to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. We are in the room with Katrina Friel, an expert from Refresh Your Thinking. You can check her out online, of course, and check out her LinkedIn profile, because there's an example of how to get your LinkedIn profile looking good.
Oh, is it?
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
totally. I totally modelled my LinkedIn profile for you.
Oh, great.
Yes, no, I think coaches and executive coaches really have got that nailed, because you know how many people look at it.
Yes, we do.
So time management, which is our focus for today, give me three top tips.
One of the ones that will save you about 40% of time in a year is asking for help. So one of the things I like to coach my clients is getting used to asking your mentor, asking your coach, because when you ask an expert, you're saving thousands of hours. Because remember, they've been there, done that, they've nailed it, and they're able to explain something to you in 5 minutes, and you now get 20 years worth of experience in 5 minutes.
Because the internet is it's our worst enemy, really. I mean, there is so much stuff on there that you can't possibly dive down and try and find all the tips. Yeah,
you're wasting time. So I call asking for help just-in-time mentoring. So when you ring up somebody and say, can you help me with blah, blah, and they teach you how to do it, you've just saved loads and loads of time. So start to really ask for help and start to build your networks around who you want to ask help for. And hopefully, Alexi, you and I working together, hopefully I've saved you possibly 200 hours so far.
And then some,
Yeah.
And also I think that relationship that you have with your business colleagues, I call them your small business colleagues, is invaluable as well. And I don't think I've ever had a meeting with someone or literally emailed someone and go, you know what, I'd really like to ask you for your advice. No one has ever said no to that.
Of course not. People love that question.
Love it. And they love to give of themselves, and not necessarily their industry secrets, but even your counterparts and what you would consider to be competitors can be really knowledgeable and helpful with that. And it's amazing how many people will say yes. So that's a good time management strategy, really.
So, I like to think of time management as more of a philosophy, and I like to know the psychology behind time management. And that's one of the psychologies is people, I don't want to bother you. I didn't want to call you. I didn't want to ask you. Or they see asking for help as weakness.
I think that's a weakness. I think saying to someone, I don't want to bother you. Have I caught you at a bad time? Somebody did that to me yesterday, and it's 5 minutes, and I'm more than happy to put them on the right path.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, how much time were they just spending floundering around the internet trying to find what they needed when they can just pick up the phone?
That's the whole point. And especially when you're paying for a coach or a mentor, in my program, you get unlimited.
Yeah, and that's what you should be looking for from a business coach, really, is that ability to pick up the phone and learn from them. Because I think business coaches as well, you don't only learn from them, you learn from all their other clients because they've seen all the people make mistakes and they know which direction to point you in. So that's a really good strategy for time management, actually. Ask for help. I like that one.
And see it as just-in-time mentoring. And I promise you it'll save you thousands of hours in a year. The other one is to really respect process and systems. The reason process and systems exist is because it's saving time. Yes, it might take time to set them up, and yes, it might take time to design them or strategize about what processes and systems you want. But once that's done and it's set up, the whole point of having good systems, no matter what they are, it's to save thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in a year. So if you're one of those people that goes, I hate processes, I'm not really a systems person.
It's so back end.
Yeah, it's so back end. I have no idea about that. Then you're probably wasting, 20 to 40% of your year fluffing around, reinventing the wheel every time you need to do something. So just decide, talking to someone like Alexi is perfect because she's the systems and process expert that you'd want to talk about some of those very basic and important strategies, like Xero, for example. That's a great system to have. You in business, you've really got to have a look at a CRM system. A customer relationship management system. That's something that holds your database and holds your information in there. A lot of small businesses leave that, and by the time they're too busy with thousands of clients, it's sort of almost too late and too hard to implement. But they're going to have to. It'll take them more time to set up. So set it up in the first place.
Software. Use it. Use it for what it's worth. It's relatively inexpensive these days. If you think about CRMs that would have been around 5-10 years ago, it would have been thousands.
Well, HubSpot CRM is now free, for heaven's sakes. You've got $1 million product there for free.
And Trello as well. That's a great. That's a good one for task management as well. And like you said,
apps.
Xero.
We didn't have apps 20 years ago. We've got apps now for everything. That's a system. That's a process. And just put them into your business, slot them in, be really chipping away at that over the year, because I promise you'll be saving thousands of hours that you may not even realise. So that would be my second tip.
And one thing I would just add to that with regards to processes and procedures, it's not a great big monumental task. You're not going to pull an operations manual out of yourself in 3 months' time. You just jot down some points, put down some bullet points. As you do stuff chronologically, add to that little document that sits on your desktop. And before you know it, you've got a process from your first engagement with a client all the way through to the completion of the job. And then you can refine it. But at least start with something, and chronological is the most logical way to do it.
Absolutely. And your business is not worth anything without proper processes and systems. So if you are looking at an exit strategy or a succession plan, or you want to sell your business in the future, really.
Or even if you want to take out a bank loan, banks will actually look at your business and value it. Yeah. And I don't think people realise that. Even just a small business that's been around for a couple of years, you have a client base. If you have systems, processes and procedures, then it adds value. So if you're thinking about expanding or getting extra capital or investors,
it's essential.
Nobody's going to touch you unless you've got some sort of systems in place.
Yeah. So I was not into it when I was young, but I learnt to respect it. And now I'm actually the process systems queen. And I teach all my clients. I look around for opportunities for them to process something or systematise something. And one of the really good ones to look at is someone like Dale Beaumont. He is like the systems king. And he's really been out there for a number of years now, over 10 years, helping businesses to systematise for productivity.
Does he have a TEDx talks or a YouTube channel?
If you just Google Dale Beaumont, he's pretty huge in Australia, so I'm a really big fan of his. And he's just created for small business Brine, BRIN, and that's where all your training and development can be in an app. So check him out just from that point of view. But yeah, he's always been advocating systems and processes and how to do things quickly and have a lot of productivity. And so, yeah, check that out. I think he gives away a one day workshop where you can learn it all.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
Very cool day to have. Yeah, and the third one I wanted to mention was working under pressure. When we're working under pressure, if we feel pressure in our body and we're stressed and we're frazzled and we're at burnout, what that does is make us unproductive. So my advice to small businesses is to get either learn to live with the pressure and just accept it and accept that that's part of life and not expect it to go away, because it's not. You know, we're all being asked to do more with less as the years go on. So pressure's just building. We're being, Facebook, and this was all not even around 20 years ago. Now look at what we have to deal with: LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, blah, 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 emails. It's all coming out our ears. So my advice about pressure is to really understand how to get it out of your body so that you're more productive. Because when you are overstimulated and under pressure, you become very unproductive and you end up just floundering around. So if you want to have, some of my suggestions are, walking, being in nature, getting your feet on the beach, all these things that are very in vogue at the moment, yoga, meditation, these are all things to release that pressure out of your body. But my favourite one, I think, is sex. That's why you have sex, to relieve the pressure. Yeah. And I don't joke. I actually say that quite seriously. And men will be going, yay, I agree. More sex. But yeah, anything to relieve the pressure. Get very self-aware about how pressure manifests in your body. For some people, they might get a pumping headache. They might get a pounding heart.
Tight chest.
They might get a tight tummy, feeling really sick in their tummy. Whatever it is, just notice that in your body and know that you need to get rid of that, because that's building every day, and that's why you have burnouts. And if burnout is the low end of the scale, a breakdown is at the other end of the scale. And then you can have a complete and utter eclipsion.
Yes.
You can some people jump off the cliff. I mean, that is extreme. And I think we're heading there because work is more pressurised. You are expected to do more. You have kids, you've got bills, you've got all sorts of things building up in your body. And to me, I really had to nail this if I wasn't going to have another burnout. Remember, I'd had two. So that's what I learnt. I learnt how to get rid of pressure out of my body and how to coach myself and mentor myself and relax myself.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something to take away. Recognise physiologically what happens inside you when you start to feel stressed, and find something that's a pressure valve.
Yeah.
Just
other
a pressure
than
release.
Self-medication of drinking.
No,
and for
yeah.
some people, drugs. That's what people are doing in today's society, is self-medicating.
Is that because it's just easier than
it's just
physical exercise?
Yeah, it's just quick.
It's funny because
it's going to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because my cousin, I work with him, and the number of times I've seen him in just absolutely, really, really, but like back against the wall with a deadline, and he'll just put everything down and go for a walk.
Yeah, perfect.
And
for more productivity.
Exactly.
He's doing that because he knows the minute he comes back, he'll be a clean slate. He'll have added energy. The touching of nature and being out in nature just would have helped balance him and ground him. It's a real thing, grounding. And he'll come back and go raw and get right into it and just produce it and make it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And he would not have done that without a break.
Well, that's an awesome tip. I mean, really just thinking about how it affects you really and what it is that works for you. because you can't. It's not an
different for
obvious,
everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, I had a ball. Thanks.
It's been a very swift hour.
It has.
Talking away. So, look, as all my listeners will know, if you'd like to listen to the podcast, it will be available in the next few days via the smallbizmatters.com.au website. And I'll also post those up on the Facebook page. Keep in touch with everything that's going on in the local area. For an exhaustive list of all networking and workshop activities that are going on, check out smallbizmatters.com.au. Well, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you all next week on Half Hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. You've been listening to Small Biz Matters on Triple H 100.1 FM.